Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours. It is January 14th, 2022 at, believe it or not, 9:15 a.m. And I spend time twice weekly, Tuesdays and Fridays at 9:15 a.m. Eastern, talking with you about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, dealing with workplace related issues, stuff along those lines. And people forward questions to me in advance of the show at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. Sometimes they'll upload them to YouTube when they see something that's relevant. Uh, and of course, you can put your questions into chat because if you're watching, hey, I'll try and deal with your question. The one thing I'll say is today I've got a time restriction of 45 minutes for today's show. And, usually that's not a problem. Usually they run about 30 minutes given the questions. But if I get a lot of them, I'll simply say I'll take them on. Take on all comers. Do what I can to be of help. And again, if you have a question for me, put it into chat because I'd love to help you. Now, I've been starting off the shows with a coffee toast. Ooh, and that's a toast to those of you who are working and you are hustling and you are trying and you're dealing with institutional friction, as happens so often. Management, leadership doesn't see you, doesn't recognize you, doesn't make you feel valued. I'll simply say, my toast to you, because you're trying. And often people get so caught up in the events of their workday, they don't pay attention to the people around them. And it's sad because these are the ones that they rely on for results. So if you're someone like that, I toast you. And let's take a toast for one another because frankly, and this is going to be the next part of the show, for them, they are going to have a problem during 2022. And the reason I say that is when firms give out raises, their raises tend to fall within certain guidelines, right? So for years, a 2 or 3% raise was fabulous. But the problem is inflation now is 7%. That doesn't mean that they should give you a 7% raise because taxes take up a part of that, right? For you to stay the same, it has to be currently about 10% because federal, state, and in some cases local taxes are going up and eating that up. And remember, when they talk about 7% taxes, 7% inflation, they're not including gas prices in all of this. And there are other things that used to be in previous rates that aren't included anymore because the numbers were just so crazy. So what I've been telling hiring managers and managers in general to do is not only give out raises that are closer to 10 or 12% to people, because in the old formulas, that's what inflation actually is. They've just removed certain things to lower the number. So I've been encouraging them to focus in on people that they consider essential to their organization rather than risk losing them. And for the rest, they're seen as commodity employees who can come and go at will. So this is going to be another year of turnover for hiring managers and employers because, and I'll just simply say the strategy for you ought to be something along the lines of get your most recent salary raise and then change jobs. Why? Because let's say they give you the big 6% increase. Woohoo! They give you a big 6% increase, and then you can go somewhere else and then get ahead of inflation because your current employer is just watching out for their bottom line. They're not looking out for yours. I know that's what they're supposed to do, but the fact of the matter is that doesn't help you at all. Some other firm will treat you well. Some other firm will pay you well. Some other firm will give you more money and good work and have you working for decent people. And please understand, I'm not a recruiter. I coach people. So I help you get higher performance in your career so that in this way you're successful. And as such, yes, you pay me for that, but I'm paid a lot less than firms pay recruiters to do this. So I'll simply say, ideally, and if you can't wait, you can't wait. Ideally, wait until you get your next raise. Hopefully, it's in the first few months of the year, and then go look somewhere else. If you got it at the end of last year, now's the time to make the move. But the idea is to springboard from one raise to the job change raise so that in this way you're able to stay ahead of inflation. Now, if you have a question for me, put it into chat. I'd be happy to answer it. If you just want to say hi, feel free to do that. Be happy to acknowledge you. And I do have a bunch of questions that were sent to me. This one came through YouTube. I earned my associate's degree in computer information systems in 2011. Events happened in my life that caused me to default to the same type of work and care facilities that I had been doing. I presently work as a CNA in a nursing home. I'm also enrolled in an online university majoring in IT. How in the world am I going to convince someone to take a chance on me in IT when for the past 11 years I've been working in healthcare? So let's start off with two basic approaches, or a few basic approaches, because more may come to mind. And please understand, I don't prep these answers in advance. I get them about a half hour before I go live. And frankly, I have other things to do. So I'm not prepped for my answers. So the first approach to take is to start by doing work on the side. Maybe you post some gigs, or you try and get a gig on Upwork or Fiverr or Freelancer to try and pick up some work that way where you're doing remote work. Maybe you have a friend or know someone who's working in IT who can throw some work your way. Whatever it is, just get some work and do it on the side so that this way you have some practical experience to add to your resume. You could even volunteer for an organization so that in this way you're getting paid by your full-time job and you're getting some experience, which you need, because you are right. Who's going to give you a chance? But the idea is to get some experience because all you have now is coursework. So if you're not doing internships to put you in that position, you got to get it somewhere, because otherwise you're going to get a rookie offer. It's going to take a long time, and it's going to be for very low money. But this becomes one way. Another way is doing something in support of the kind of work that you want to do. So you're not actually doing it, but you're doing it next to people who do it. And again, that doesn't necessarily put you in a position where you're well paid, but you're getting close to it. And then there are opportunities that show up that you take on until someone transfers you. This becomes proving your way into the role by working in proximity to people who are doing the role, where you're helping and not just simply having blinders on, doing what's at your desk. You're doing more than what's necessary, getting people to know, like, trust, and respect you. So this way, when something opens up, they can point to you as a possible solution. So that becomes a second way. Again, you can do temp work. Sometimes there's a low bar of entry into being a temp, and you can get an assignment through a consulting firm that's going to allow you to break in. But those are the basic approaches to take, and it takes time. It's not like instantly you're going to have a job. You got to work at getting the work that you want. I work outside, and I've been forced into 12-hour days, 6 days a week for a year, just for them to force us into 14-hour days, 7 days a week during December in the run-up to Christmas, due to being shorthanded, maybe Omicron, who knows? And upper management handed us a sheet of paper today that was supposed to raise our morale, but is just awful. So when I looked at what it was, and I'm not going to put it on the screen, just trust me, it was like a daily thing for them to wear or do in the run up to Christmas. That was, it was designed to be nice to the customers and maybe fun for the customers, like wear a clown nose, have someone put on a white beard and act like Santa, you know, on the day before Christmas, after all those 14-hour days, you come to work in pajamas, and this was like behavior that they wanted their people to do. What it tells me is that you're in a job that you don't like, working for people that you don't care for. And it begs the question of what skills and experience do you have that are going to be marketable to someone else? What's going to make someone else want to hire you, since clearly you are completely turned off by your current employer? There is no reason to work in a job that you dislike and you feel humiliated by, because that's really what this person expressed to me, is they felt humiliated. So don't do it. Get out, but don't just quit. Find something else. And if you don't have skills and experiences that are marketable, get them. While you're working somewhere else, go to school, do training, get experiences and internships, do some part-time work on the side. This is kind of like what I answered in the previous question, so that someone wants to hire you. But right now, when you say you're working outside 6 days a week for a year, 12-hour days, and now it's up to 14-hour days, 7 days a week, you're not being respected, of course. You're being treated like a slob in a job, which sounds like, it means what it sounds like. You're nothing to them. You're just a body. Get some better experiences. Go elsewhere. Get training that's going to be relevant. There's no reason to feel humiliated by an employer. Now, another thing is to say, no, I'm not going to humiliate myself and dress in this way. This was not part of what I signed up for when I joined this firm. No one told me that I would have to act like an idiot and humiliate myself in front of customers in order to have this job. If I had been told in advance, I would have rejected the offer and taken another one. But you held this back, I'm not going to comply. So a couple of different ways to deal with this. Is it realistic to hire someone to handle the selling, and when a project needs a bold vision, to hire someone as a consultant? So let me start by saying the management consulting firms are in the business of being hired to provide bold vision. So that is what they do. So if it's a sales approach or sales methodology for the organization and how to sell, you betcha, it's pretty common that they do that. However, that outside firm may not know your culture like you do. So if you're the selling person, if you are the sales manager for a firm and they're bringing people in from the outside, it's how you're seen. You're seen as a day-to-day salesperson who doesn't have the vision to set up a sales strategy for them. Maybe work at correcting that. Be supportive of the management consultants that they've brought in, so that in this way you can learn from them. See how they think about things. It's perceived as a deficiency on your part. Solve it. Get the experiences and training that's going to allow you to step into this kind of a role. So yes, it is very normal that this occur. I'm going to remind you, if you have a question for me, put it into chat and I'll answer it during today's show. Okay. We've got another question. I quit work recently. At the exit interview, HR asked me what would make me change my mind and suggested a 15% raise. So I said, okay, sure. The next day, HR came back to me saying management declined my counteroffer. Okay, head for the door. Basically, you got set up here, and they're trying to save face. and HR knows that they're the ones who made the request of you, right? It wasn't you saying, what would make me stay is a 15% raise. No, the way you present it is they asked you if a 15% raise would cause you to stay. Leave, do not pass go to the next company. There's no reason to be in this kind of a situation. What's the first thing one should do before saying no to a job offer? Well, what I ask people to do when I coach them is to take some time at the beginning of the search and ask themselves the question, what's most important to you in the next job or organization? What will you need to see or hear to believe it's a good choice for you? And then prioritize the list. So the list should be as long as you like. Then prioritize them on 1, 2, whatever the total number is. 1 is the most important, whatever the other number is the least important. And then once you have that, focus in on the first 5 items on your list, the 5 most important things to you. So that in this way, you can now ask yourself the question, what will I need to see or hear to believe that this firm and this manager will give me this, will satisfy this need that I have? Now, once you have that, and now you have an offer, what you're able to do is to go back to your list and basically do check boxes. And the checks basically says, does it accomplish this? Yes. Does it accomplish this? Yes. Does it accomplish this? No, no, no. And thus, it makes it very clear that it doesn't meet 3 of the 5 major priorities. Now, as many people go through their job search, their priorities change and things get shifted around on that list. And you should revisit the list to make sure you're hitting on the top 5 priorities as they are at the end. So the easiest way to make the decision is to compare the firm, the opportunity, and the financial offer with the items that you have determined are most important to you in the next job or organization. And I say that you have determined because sometimes a person's parents or wife, husband, or partner, or their friends, or their work colleagues tell them what they should pay attention to. And it's helpful, but these are your choices. You are the ones who are going to have to live with the consequences of the decision to leave or to turn down the offer and keep looking. Be clear about what you want and then go back and evaluate and then make a decision. That's the best way to go about it. Let me take a quick look at chat just to see if anyone put a message. No messages. And I'll just say, if you have a message for me, put your question about job search, hiring, management leadership, or asking for advice around a particular workplace issue into chat so that this way I can answer your question. Okay. Next one is, I work at a company where I and many of my colleagues hear feedback all day long, often more than twice a day from different people. And it's very critical feedback. You should be more like this person. You should be more like that person. That's not the way to do your job. You should be doing it this way, even though this is the way they were told to do it all along. So I'll start by saying you're not getting feedback, you're getting criticism. Feedback also includes the positive. So no one is telling you, according to what you wrote to me, that you're getting any praise. All you're hearing is criticism. So next time before someone comes to you and says, can I offer you feedback? Say, yes, but I want you to start off by telling me something I'm doing well, because all I hear from you is criticism. You call it feedback, I hear it as criticism. I know you're trying to help me do my job better, but hearing positive reinforcement helps me because it lets me know what I'm doing right, since all you've been telling me up until this point is what I do wrong. And if they say, well, we're not going to tell you about the good stuff, just keep doing that. If we're not criticizing you about it, then you're doing it right. I'd like to hear something positive from you because, again, all I hear is criticism at least twice a day, and that that isn't working for me. So I'll take the feedback, but just start off with a compliment, okay? And be sincere with it. And this will start to change the dynamic. What I'm discussing is something from the old book called The 1 Minute Manager, which talks about catching people doing something right. And thus, what a manager does is reinforce positive behavior and not go into negative or critical behavior all the time. If you see that they're doing something well, you praise them for it. And that's not what's going on for you. And if they refuse to change, just smile and politely remark to them, please give me the positive feedback first before the criticism. It helps me a lot. And if they refuse to do it, move on because there's a good job market out there and you have choices. Why did the interviewer ask for my personal number at the end of the interview? Because they want to call you. Maybe they want to call you to schedule another interview. Maybe they want to call you to ask a follow up question when it comes back to them from the hiring manager. And another reason is in their database, it's a required field, and the third party recruiter who scheduled the interview didn't provide it to them. So the idea becomes they want a way of reaching you to schedule an appointment, extend an offer, to get clarification on some information, any number of possible reasons. So that's what it's all about. Um, it doesn't mean that you did well, although the probability is that you did, because most of the time no one would ask for that information unless they want to continue conversations with you. And they're looking to make it easy for them so they can call you up and say, we'd like to have you back. What's your schedule like for Tuesday or Thursday? Or whatever it is. We've got another question. At what point is it too late to back out after accepting a job offer? Well, what you want to do is to back out as soon as possible and not wait till the last minute. You don't want to take a job and go to work at a place where you don't want the offer or you don't want the job, and you're going to resent it and not perform well. So as soon as you've made the decision, back out. You can send them an email directly and simply say, I've been thinking about it and I've decided to take another offer. Or I've been thinking about it and have decided I'm not going to join your firm. And you do it directly because if you were scheduled by an agency or a search firm, often what happens is if you call them, they're going to get into an argument with you because they're seeing a fee go out the door. So they're going to work to defend the situation. Be clear about what your reasons are. And if the firm or representative of the firm, I should say, calls you to question your sanity or why you would do something like this, be polite. They're shocked. They're not responding perfectly. Um, and what you're able to say is, I really have been thinking about it. And there are a couple of things about the job I don't care for, or a couple of things about the offer that I realize in hindsight um, don't work for me. Um, like what? And then you tell them, you do it courteously, and engage in the conversation. It's not about winning. Remember, on their side, they thought this position was filled, and now it isn't. So do it as soon as possible so they have a chance to backfill the job and not get caught short. Okay, another question for today. What if a prospective employer downgraded the role you applied for midway through the interview process? Should you still pursue the opportunity? Probably not. And it's not because they downgraded it per se, it's because they probably downgraded the salary. So if you were interviewing for a project manager job or a lead job, and now they want you to interview for a staff position, the staff position is going to pay less, right? Now, sometimes they're finally coming clean about the level of the job. So they downgraded the role because what happened was someone quit, they grabbed the job requirement or had HR grab the requirement because that's what came to mind. They haven't updated it, but now they have, and now they're releasing the real job. So get clarity about the differences in the role, the differences in the compensation, what your role and responsibilities would be. Like I said, it's probably not going to be worth your while, but you need to know more before making a decision. 2 more questions as of now. Is asking for a 20% salary raise too much? Not necessarily. A 20% raise, if you're making $50,000, is $10,000. It's nothing. If you're a person who's making $200,000, that's a 40% raise. And that probably is going to be too much, but sometimes it isn't. So remember, if you live in many locations now around the United States, it's no longer illegal to ask them what your current salary is. So they may not know. I'll use New York as an example again. It's an illegal question there, as it is in many states and cities around the US. So focus in on creating the value so that you're not dealing with the downgrade. Again, there's someone I worked with as a coach who took a position and was a step up in title and was a step up in salary that was pretty significant. Between base and bonus, he probably did an 80% increase, and he was not a $50,000 a year person. So the reality is, the percentage isn't important. It's the real number, especially when you're junior, because the real number reflects the actual increase. Like I said, if you get a 20% raise when you make $50,000, it's only $10,000, which is nothing to a firm. However, if it's $200,000 or $300,000, a 20% raise might be painful for the firm, and they'll start negotiating when you start talking numbers. As of now, last question. Why do companies withhold pay information on job ads on LinkedIn? It's again kind of related to the salary raise question. And I'll simply say the reason they don't put salary in is when they include a range, people only hear the top number. They never hear the bottom number or think of all the numbers in the middle. Let me illustrate. If you hear a salary range of 110 to 120, and they offer you 115, suddenly you think to yourself, what? They got 120? It's only $5,000, and now the firm has a headache on their hands. Instead, they try to say things like, we didn't grade you out to the same level as existing people. In what areas did you think I was deficient that made you say that? And most of them won't be able to give you a straight answer because they just made up something. And it used to work, and now it really shouldn't. So best of all, just they avoid putting the numbers in their ads on LinkedIn, and they try to dance off the salary question for as long as possible because they don't want to give a range. It hurts them when they make the offer for a lesser amount. So last call, if you have any questions, put them into chat. If not, I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. I'm a career and leadership coach. Hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did and you're watching anywhere, Click the like button, share it, leave a comment, do something that demonstrates that it was worthwhile for you. Also, visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. I've got a ton there in the blog that you can watch, listen to, or read. You can find out about my courses, because I do have some very good courses that are available that'll help you with interviewing, and will also help you avoid making mistakes in your salary negotiations, which, by the way, start when you're interviewing. In addition, if you're interested in my coaching you, at the site, you can schedule time for a free discovery call or schedule time for coaching. I'd love to help. Lastly, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. And there's a lot more at jobsearchtv.com, on YouTube and Amazon, and also in my podcast, No BS Job Search Advice Radio, which is the #1 podcast in Apple Podcasts for job search. Next week, we hit episode 2300, and we've already been on the air for 11 years. That's more than Joe Rogan. Hope you have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.